Shalom, good evening. Been kind of playing around so far, making some practice videos and fun stuff. Um, I'm gonna get into some meat and potatoes here. This is the history of the ancient Germans, including that of the Simri Salti. Oh wow, I didn't even see that before. Salti like salts. Teutones, Alemanni, Saxons, and other ancient northern nations. A quick side note here: the Alemanni was how I started studying and found this and was looking for because I started looking up my family history and lineage and found actually a cousin of mine found the originator of our last name. The actual man that came here from um, that area. I forget what it's called. That area of Germany, 1860 something. And so I was looking into these Alemanni. It turned out if they're uh, if they're grouping them with Celts and Teutones and Saxons, they may not be. They may be somebody else. They may not be my people anyhow. And other ancient northern nations who overthrow the Roman Empire and establish that of the Germans and most of the kingdoms of Europe in 2 volumes. Um, Written originally in High German by Dr. John Jacob Mascu. I thought I had a picture of him, but I wasn't sure that it was him. Um, so, and it says Alec, counselor to the King of Poland, assessor of the Court of Justice, and senator of the city of Leipzig in Saxony. Now translated into English by T.H.O. Ledyard, Esquire, late secretary to His Majesty's Envoy Extraordinary in Lower Germany. Okay. We're going to start with this section, which is chapter 50. This book's pretty confusing. Each volume has a lot of different books, so it's tough to find anything in here. But I'm going to start here. I must now return to the history of the Vendelic Kingdom, which Genesaric, or as he is properly called, Geeseric, left AD 477 in a flourishing condition to Huneric, his son. This kingdom comprehended all that part of Africa from the Atlantic Sea to Cyrene, which formerly belonged to the Romans. If we will describe these countries according to their situation and begin from the Atlantic Ocean, we shall first meet with Mauritania, which country was divided into 3 provinces. Tingatana, so called from the city Tingis, afterwards Tangier. Caesariensis, in which was Caesarea in ancient times, the residence of King Juba. We're going to look up King Juba real quick because he's pretty interesting. Okay. This is King Juba II, or Juba of Mauritania. Caesarensis was the client king of Numidia and Mauritania, Caesarensis, succeeding his Numidian father Juba I. Aside from his very successful reign, he was a highly respected scholar and author. His first wife was Cleopatra Selene, and that is the Cleopatra was a Ptolemaic princess and queen of Mauritania. She was the most important royal woman in early age. Daughter of Egyptian Queen Cleopatra the Seventh, of Ptolemaic Egypt and Roman triumvir Mark Antony. Early life. Juba was a Berber prince from Numidia. He was born in Heppo Regis, now Annaba, Algeria. He was the only child and heir of King Juba I of Numidia. His mother's identity is unknown. In 46 BC, he was defeated by Julius Caesar in Thapsus, North Africa. Thapsus. Maybe Tarsus? I don't know. And in 40 BC, Numidia became a Roman province. His father had been an ally of the Roman general Pompey. Several modern scholars cite his age at Caesar's triumph in 46 BC as 4 or 6, giving rise to the typical. We're going to skip over this little part. Juba was brought to Rome by Julius Caesar, and he took part in Caesar's triumphal procession. In Rome, he learned Latin and Greek, became Romanized, and was granted Roman citizenship. Through dedication to his studies, he's said to have become one of Rome's best educated citizens, and by age 20, he wrote one of his first works entitled Roman Archaeology. He was raised by Julius Caesar and later by his great-nephew Octavian, future Emperor Augustus. While growing up, Juba accompanied Octavian on military campaigns, gaining valuable experience as a leader. He fought alongside Octavian in the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. You see here, he was restored to the throne in 30 BC. Octavian restored Juba II as king of Numidia. Juba II established Numidia as an ally of Rome, probably as a result of his services to Augustus in a campaign in Hispania between 26 and 20 BC. The emperor arranged for him to marry Cleopatra Selene II, giving her a large dowry and appointing her queen. In 25 BC, Numidia became a Roman province, and Juba II received Mauritania as his kingdom. Reign in Mauritania. According to Strabo, upon the deaths of the Mauritanian kings Bogus and Bacchus, those are some weird names right there. I looked them up a little bit. I didn't get too much into it, but that bogus, I mean, that's got to be the source of the name bogus. The word bogus, meaning fake, right? And Bacchus, right? That's a pagan deity, Roman deity. I don't know. Anyway, who were both allies of the Romans. Juba II succeeded to the Mauritanian kingdom, having received it from Augustus, in addition to his paternal dominions. When Juba II and Cleopatra Selene moved to Mauritania, they named their new capital Caesarea in honor of Augustus. The construction and sculpture projects at Caesarea and another city display a mix rich of Egyptian, Greek, and Roman architectural styles. This whole northern Africa, Carthage and Numidia and Mauritania and all these places seem to have been a very what they would call now cosmopolitan area. I mean, there was a lot of different races and peoples there. I'll just say that for now. So Cleopatra is said to have exerted considerable influence on Juba's policies. Juba encouraged and supported the performing arts, research of sciences, and research of natural history. Juba also supported Mauritanian trade. The kingdom of Mauritania was of great importance to the Roman Empire. Mauritania engaged in trade all across the Mediterranean, particularly with Spain and Italy. Mauritania exported fish, grapes, pearls, figs, grain, wooden furniture, and purple dye. This purple dye, we're going to see something about this in a minute. Harvested from certain shellfish, which was used in the manufacture of purple stripes for senatorial robes. Juba sent a contingent to Elis Perpius to reestablished the ancient Phoenician dye manufacturing process. So Tingis, modern Tangier, a town at the Pillars of Hercules, modern Strait of Gibraltar, became a major trade center. In Gades, modern Cadiz, and Carthago Nova, modern Cartagena, in Spain. Juba was appointed by Augustus as an honorary douvar, chief magistrate, or colony or town. The value and quality of the Mauritanian coinage became highly regarded. The Greek historian Plutarch described him as one of the most gifted rulers of his time. Between 2 BC and AD 2, he traveled with Gaius Caesar, a grandson of Augustus, as an advisor to the Eastern Mediterranean. In AD 21, Juba made his son Ptolemy his co-ruler. Juba II died in AD 23, and Juba II was buried alongside his first wife in the royal mausoleum of Mauritania. Ptolemy then became the sole ruler of Mauritania. Okay. Where were King Juba? And Citicensis, of which Citici was the capital. Next to these lay Numidia and then Africa, properly so called, or the former dominions of the Carthaginians. Which the Romans, after having conquered Carthage, made themselves masters of, and afterwards divided into two provinces, one of which, wherein was Carthage the capital, was in particular called Proconsularis, the other Byzantia, from the city of Byzantia. From thence the Provincia Tripolitania reached quite as far as the confines of Cyrene, and that's Syria, right? The inhabitants of these countries were of three sorts. I never did know what that means. First, the ancient Mauritanians and Numidians, and the descendants of the Phoenician colonies. Now, you saw that Juba looked like a Berber because the Berbers of this area seem to be the lighter complexioned people. However, I don't know how to distinguish the different races. It gets a little confusing because there doesn't seem to be any clear delineage or separation, or because I heard before it said that the Mauritanians it was the home of the Moors, and we're gonna see that they were known as the Mari in this time, and this doesn't. While I really was going on the definitely the assumption that they were the same people as the Moors, I'm not sure that they are. I'm not sure that they are. So anyhow, they were mixed with Phoenicians. We see. Who had their own rulers and are by Procopius in general named Mari. Okay, sorry, there's the Mari. So we're gonna look at Mari real quick. Okay, Mari, from which derives the English term Moors. You see the. We'll just continue. What's the Latin designation for the Berber population of Mauritania? Okay. I was under the assumption that those were two different races of people. And it was located in the part of Africa west of Numidia, an area co-extensive with present-day North Morocco and northwest Algeria. Uh, Mari by Strabo, who wrote in the early first century as the native name, which is also adopted into Latin, while he cites the Greek name for the same people as Marusi. The name Mari is a tribal confederation or generic ethnic designator that seems to roughly correspond to the people known as Numidians in earlier ethnography. Both terms presumably group early Berber speaking populations. The earliest Tifanga epigraph dates to about the 3rd century BC. Roman period in 44 AD. Incorporated the region as the province of Mauritania, later divided into Mauritania Cesariensis and Mauritania Tingannata, as we just saw. The area around Carthage was already part of Africa proconsular. Roman rule was effective enough so that these provinces became integrated into the empire. Maori raids into the southern Iberian Peninsula are mentioned as early as the reign of Nero in Clugus, whatever. Gurnians Medes, a wealthy price to tempt the fierce Moors' avarice. I think this was it with the Maori. Just wanted to show some of the ambiguity in this area, some of the just what do they say? Gray line. What's that song called? Blurred lines, right? So maybe purposely, right? Very interesting. Needless to say, it's worth studying because there's a lot going on here in this book. Who had their own rulers and are by Procopius in general named Mari. The Roman provincials. Okay, so these are the three inhabitants of the countries. So they're the ancient Mauritanians and Numidians and the descendants of the Phoenician colonies, and who are called in general by Procopius the Mari. Okay. Then the second of the three types of people in this area was the Roman provincials. Okay. Servants of Rome, I imagine that means. And lastly, the Vandals. Now, the Vandals are pretty interesting too. I'll say now about the Vandals that half of their kingdom was up in Germany still at this time. At this time, or earlier even. Um, I'm not going to show any pictures, but I've looked up some of the kings, and I'm not sure that they were Caucasian, white. To the Vandalic kingdom appertained, besides the continent, however, the islands of Sardinia, Corsica, Majorca, Minorca, and Taica, the islands of the sea, right? This could possibly be Japhetic people. Honoric had many differences with the Mari, who revolted from the Vandals. So it seems these Mari was under the yoke of the Vandals. They were all slaves of each other back and forth and basically fighting and unenslaving themselves and enslaving the other one. Definitely a lot of slavery going on in this area. And placed themselves so securely on the mountain called Arasias that neither Huneric nor his successors could ever reduce them to their subjection. His name is transmitted to us as infamous on account of that cruel persecution of the true believers, on which it would be difficult to decide who tyrannized most, the king or the Arian clergy. hopefully you can read this. I know it's in a different kind of writing, right? It's the old English writing, I think, with these S's and F's are funny looking. Anyway, Eudoxia, his consort, daughter of the Emperor Valentinian III, left him in the year 472 and took refuge at Jerusalem, where she ended her days. He died himself in the year 484 AD. The kingdom did not descend to his children, for Gundamon, the son of Genzo, his elder brother, succeeded by virtue of a regulation made by Genseric that the government should always devolve to the eldest of the royal blood. We meet with a medal of Gundobad on one side of which are the words DN Rex. And I looked up, I think it was Gundobad, I looked up. And finding melanated looking people under these names. On one side of which are the words DN Rex Contamont. On the other, a crown of laurels, and in it the letters DN. His reign was at the same time, and I heard Lex Will talking about this. Odoacer, I think he was the one to overthrow Rome. There's a lot of parallel information to what he was reading recently about the secret history of Procopius. This author is going to mention Procopius even in the coming chapters. Governed Italy and was afterwards conquered by Theodoric, and I believe he's a Goth. But it is chiefly memorable on account of the stop he put in the year 494 to the persecution of the true believers, referring to Catholics as true believers, when he restored to them their churches and recalled the banished bishops. He was succeeded A 496 by Thrasimund, his brother, who is extolled by the historians of this time on account of the excellencies both of his person and mind. Among other things, he is said to have loved the sciences, especially those which had any relation to morals, and to have been a master of them. As he kept up a friendship with Theodoric, king of the Ostrogoths, whose sister he had married. So, on the other hand, he likewise maintained a singular good understanding with the Emperor Anastasius. I looked him up. He's definitely a melanated person. Just a side note too. I already forgot what it was. The other day, the Ignatius, right? So then Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, also black, also a melanated person, and the painter Rembrandt. The Orthodox Christians might reasonably form great hopes of his reign. He made at least no use of compulsion at first, but tried other methods. Whoever turned from his Catholic party to Arianism might be assured of making his fortune. And whoever had committed any crime might by the same means securely evade the punishment. Conferences on religious matters were likewise frequent, and the 3 books are still extant, written against the Arians by Fulgentius, one of the most famous teachers in Africa, and dedicated to the king himself. But when some prelates, contrary to the king's orders, appointed new bishops in the churches here and there, in the room of others deceased, he caused the churches to be shut up in the year 503 and banished a large number of bishops into Sardinia. And this would be Roman bishops, right? Anyway. Which was the fate of the before mentioned Fulgentus, who had been consecrated bishop of Ropa. The bishops are said to have taken on this voyage the corpse of Saint Austin with them into Sardinia, in which island Pope Symmachus gave them all possible relief. Also melanated, man. I'm seeing a image of him. Thrasimund died in the year 523, soon after a fatal overthrow which the Vandals suffered from the Mari, who had rebelled in the country of the Tripolis. I'm just gonna propose a little something about the Vandals real quick. People in antiquity are named for their acts and how they're remembered, and I tried to look it up why the Vandals are called the Vandals, and they tried to say that they had the name Vandali and da 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 da. It wasn't because of vandalism, right? But we just saw, or maybe I was just reading something about how people are often named for how they're remembered, And so, maybe if there was really a great vandalism in this area, Northern Africa, um, these vandals could be responsible for that, the defacement and you're going to see that they ended up with some of the treasures from Jerusalem when they sacked Rome. Um, in the end of this broadcast, maybe I'm going to break it up, but anyway, towards the end, about 8 chapters from here, um, it talks about that. So maybe these are the people that destroyed all the statues, defaced the statues. Maybe it was done more recently, but maybe it was done a long time ago. I will plan to study it if my studies lead that way, but I haven't seen anything about that yet. But that's just a theory, right? So that they say which the Vandals suffered from the Mari. Okay, soon after a fatal overthrow, which the Vandals suffered from the Mari. So the Mari overthrew the Vandals who had rebelled in the country of Tripoli. And we're going to skip this L1 because it's not much to it. 51, we're going to go to chapter 52. 52, okay. Okay. A little further on the Berbers. The Berber people are known as the Amazigh. Now, these are the non-melanated people, what you could refer to as the wicked man. People that look like me, Amazigh. And this is interesting. We're called Amazigh, plural, amazing or whatever, a word which means free people. Interesting, right? To be call yourself the free people makes begs the question of that you were not free before, right? At one time you were not free. If you make the designation that you are free, you know that what it also means to be a slave. So they are known as the free people in the indigenous Temenzing language. Among outsiders, the more common, though incorrect, name for Amazigh is Berber. Now, they're saying here that Berber is a term that is largely rejected by Amazighs for its negative connotations. It's related to the word barbarian. But again, like we are just talking about with the Vandals, people are known and named for their actions and how they're known in history, what they've done. And so these barbarians becoming Berbers, and the Berbers wanting to be called Amazigh people. Okay. Berbers or Amazigh, so they're the same people. And I've seen before somewhere else that the Berber language was a Phoenician language. Are an ethnic group of North Africa and West Africa, specifically Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Mauritania, northern Mali, and northern Niger. Smaller Berber populations are also found in Burkina Faso and Egypt's Siwa Oasis. I got some stuff coming about another race of what they call multicultural people in this area in Africa. I can't think Hausa, the Hausa people. Anyhow, historically, a Berber nation spoke the Berber languages, which are a branch of the Afro-Asiatic language family. Also interesting, it seems this is all leading in 100 different directions, and it's kind of hard sometimes to know for sure what's going on. But anyway, with history, a lot of times we just have to go where we're led and kind of I don't know, just form ideas of our own. See what we learn. And we see here the majority of North Africans' population west of Egypt is believed to be Berber in ethnic origin. Although due to Arabianization and Islamization, some ethnic Berbers identify as Arabicized Berbers. So large immigrant Berber communities are living in France, Spain, Canada, Belgium, Netherlands, United Kingdom, and other countries of Europe. The term Berber originates from the Greek, meaning barbarian, or earlier it was applied by the Romans specifically to their northern hostile neighbors from Germania, modern Germany, and Celts. Yeah, I don't know about that. Celts are melanated people. There's there's some common misinformation, like what they're given here, going on in British history as well, um, calling the different um, invasions barbarian invasions. So then the Celts couldn't be classed with barbarians. That's impossible. Is this even saying that the Celts are barbarians? It said earlier it was applied by the Romans specifically to their northern hostile neighbors. The term Berber was applied. And Celts. Oh, so Romans called Celts Berbers? No, that's baloney. They would have both been melanated people. Iberians, also melanated peoples, Gauls, Goths, and Thracians. Among its oldest written attestations, Berber appears as an ethnonym in the first century AD, Persepius, Erathian, C, whatever. Despite these early manuscripts, certain modern scholars have argued that the term only emerged around 900 AD in the writings of Arab genealogists. This is the Berber term, so maybe the Amazigh is before that. You know what? Actually, that sounds like misinformation there, because they've been talking like I just saw an article today about shit, what's his name, Alfred the Great. Alfred the Great was king in Britain around I think the 10th century or 11th century, something like that. And it was talking about how he dealt with how he was dealing at that time with the barbarian invasions. So that would disprove this 900 AD number. But anyhow, Maurice Lenoir posited an 8th or 9th century date of appearance. Ramsey Rogi argues that the usage of Berber in reference to the people of North Africa appeared only after the Muslim conquest of the 7th century. Latin and Greek sources describe Moors, Africans, and even barbarians, but never Berbers. Okay, so then that goes to show that these people were called barbarians originally by Latin and Greek sources, right? They're not talking about no Berbers over there. The English term was introduced in the 19th century, replacing the earlier Barbary. Barbarous, murderous. The Berbers are the Mari cited by the Chronicles of 754. So you see, this is what starts to distinguish two different groups with the Mari and the Moors. That is, if the Moors are melanated, which I believe and have seen all accounts of them being melanated. people. So these Maoris seem to be maybe people. I don't know. Anyway, during the Umayyad conquest of Hispania to become, since the 11th century, the catch-all term Spanish Moors on documents of the Christian Iberian kingdoms to refer to the Andalusi, the North Africans, and the Muslims overall. It's not really clear what that sentence is saying. I'm trying to go back in my mind, but anyhow, from the historian Abraham Isaac Laredo, the name Amazigh could be described from the name of the ancestor Mezig. So they're basically trying to separate themselves from the barbarians, which doesn't seem to be uh, called for. And so, which is the translation of. Okay, now this is interesting too. It's a very confusing article. Which, okay, so we see that the name amazing could be named from Mezig, derived from Mezig, which is the translation of biblical ancestor Didan, son of Sheba in the Targum. This Targum, I never heard of this before. I'm gonna research this, man. Look at what this Targum is. It says it was an originally spoken translation of the Hebrew Bible that a professional translator would give in the common language of the listeners when that was not Hebrew. Um, this had become necessary near the end of the first century BC. Um, yeah, I guess the first century BC, so that's before the overthrow of Jerusalem. Um, I suppose they would have been having dealings with outside nations. I'm not sure that they shared any. You guys, let me know what you think. I can think of a lot of people that wouldn't agree with this, that Hebrews were sharing a spoken translation of the Torah with outsiders that didn't speak Hebrew because they had to have a common language. I don't know, strange. Maybe we'll see if I ever hear about it again. It might even be just totally made up. Um, According to Leo Africanus, amazing meant free man. See, we're seeing this free again, right? Some argued that there is no root of MZY meaning free in modern Berber languages. However, Mazui, and that's funny, my wife is Congolese. The name for white man in Swahili, yeah, or maybe Kinyarwanda is another language she speaks, is a language of where they had the genocide. Anyway, there were for white man is Muzungu. So that's kind of similar, right? Muz, Muz, to be noble, generous. Okay, exists among the Amazigh of central Morocco, and Tumazi, to free oneself, revolt. Okay, so we're seeing here that their name does mean that they were former slaves. They're calling themselves free now, but that you can guess by that they used to be slaves. And so we see that this exists among the Kalbis of Udawahi, which was Algeria. Anyway, this dispute, however, is based on a lack of understanding of the Berber language, as am is a prefix meaning a man, one who is. Therefore, the root required to verify this endonym would be zig, free, which, however, is also missing from the lexicon, but maybe related to the attested A's, strong, tis it, bravery, or just to be brave. So anyway, we see that they're basically the former slave people. Juba, Ptolemy. I don't know if there's any way to see how long we've been going for. I'm going to take a break right here and check how long I'm at. Okay, I can't tell how long I've been recording for. Let me check and make sure that I'm still recording now that I messed with this crap. All right, so I'm gonna go through this next chapter real quick, and I'm gonna stop there. So we now draw near to the time in which all of those circumstances met that were destined for the overthrow of the Vandalic kingdom. The Emperor Justin died A 527 on the first day of August, and Justinian, with whom he had 4 months before divided the government, remained now with Theodora, his consort, sole master of the empire. Historians give various accounts of the personal qualifications of this emperor. So he's going to talk about Procopius's, especially as Procopius, who extols him so much throughout all his other writings, afterwards represents him very differently in his Anecdota. This Anecdota must be talking about the secret histories that we've recently seen, and I guess it did say in the beginning, right, that Procopius was afraid to write the truth about him until later on or whatever. So that makes sense and sounds true. But we find in reality that the Roman Empire had not been governed by so great a prince after the times of Constantine. He demonstrated during his reign how much he had been conversant with the sciences, for he not only digested the Roman laws into a new order, but interposed likewise, as many imagine, too far. Okay, so he not only digested the Roman laws into a new order, but he interposed likewise, as many imagine, too far into the ecclesiastical matters, the religious matters. He, moreover, generally drew the drafts himself of those great and splendid edifices. So this guy is obviously not going. He's given Justinian a positive spin, right? Not telling the truth. So which he caused to be, doesn't mean that he's totally discredited, because this is still an interesting source of information, but could be similar reasons why he didn't want to say anything controversial about it. He might have been one of the million killed, right? Trillion kill, which he caused to be erected in all parts of the empire. He drew the drafts himself, right, and posted them all over the empire, and of which Procopius wrote a separate work. He never went to the field, but his generals were successful in those great wars which he carried on in the East, in Africa, and in Italy. His consort Theodora had actually a share in the government with him, not alone by his private consultations with her, such as Augustus held with his Livia, but likewise in such manner that in the laws, public records, and other monuments of this time, she is mentioned as a co-administrator. That would also match up to what is said in the secret history. So, as much as authors differ concerning her education, right? She was a whore. You're right, they do differ. As ambiguous as ambiguous wait all right as much as authors differ concerning her education, as ambiguous some are likewise in the account they give how she passed her youthful days, being a whore in the theater. But they unanimously extol her understanding and beauty. Of course they did, they're afraid to get killed, to which she first owed her marriage and afterwards her promotion to the imperial throne. Notwithstanding, Justinian found the empire involved in a war with the Persians, yet he at the very beginning of his reign formed two important designs. He caused the ancient Roman laws to be brought into order, which seemed, as it were, an omen of the restoration of that empire in the West, for whose laws the people who were formerly governed thereby still retained a great veneration, even under their new lords. He caused the new codex to be first published, A 529, which was followed by the Pandex and the Institutes, and at length by another edition of the codex, which had in the meantime been revised. And these things, hold on, let me check how much further. Okay, sorry. I wanted to make sure I was still in the right place. These things have perpetuated the memory of his reign, even after the decay of so many fine buildings, of the fruits of so many wars, and even almost of the empire itself. He resolved in the second place. All right, so this is the two designs of Justinian. It says, people were governed. I'm not sure. I think these are still the designs of Justinian. These things have perpetuated the memory of his reign, even after the decay of so many fine buildings, of the fruits of so many wars, and even almost of the empire itself. He resolved in the second place to extirpate the Roman Empire. I forget what that means, extirpate. I think it means to take out. I could look it up, man, but I don't even feel like it. In the Roman Empire, the residue of the pagans. Okay, so he resolved in the second place to remove in the Roman Empire the residue of the pagans and the sects that separated from the national religion. He referred to as true believers, right? Catholicism, which later was impracticable unless he conquered those nations that professed Arianism. So I guess it's saying as long as there was Aryan nations running around, it was difficult for him to remove all the pagans. And so the churches he seized upon were possessed of immense riches, the Aryan churches, which contributed to the execution of his design and enabled him to wage war with the enemy at their own expense. The commotions in Africa afforded him a convenient opportunity to make a successful beginning. The Vandals were involved in civil discords, and which was yet worse, had very much deviated from their ancient valor and rigid discipline. Of the days when they would have sacked Rome, I believe it was 455 AD, something like that. For as formerly Hannibal soldiers in Campania gave themselves up to luxury, so did now the Vandals in Africa. See, the Vandals are distinguished from Hannibal's soldiers. I believe Hannibal's soldiers would have been of the Maori, the Phoenicians. The Vandals are being separated from the Phoenicians, it seems. During their long peace with the Romans and the Goths, they had neglected the arts of navigation and war, and instead thereof spent their time in hunting, erected splendid villas, on public shows, baths, banquets, and other diversions which abounded in Africa. So it sounds like they had it going on down there, right? I didn't even think of that before, but the shows, the baths, the banquets. This would have been a very rich and powerful kingdom at a certain period, but we're going to see more about them. And as we saw them say that we're actually talking about the fall of the Vandals to the Romans, to Justinian, and to Belisarius. We're going to see Belisarius as well. Their tie of friendship with the Ostrogoths was dissolved, but they indeed were themselves not very formidable after the death of Theodoric. Justinian therefore took the part of the imprisoned king Hilderic in pursuance of that amity which had subsisted between them, and I think that's the Ostrogoths, yeah. He sent ambassadors to Gelimer, the Vandalic king, and required of him to set his uncle and lawful king at liberty. When this mediation, as is easy to conceive, would prove fruitless, he made use of the refusal for a pretense to war, and in the year 533 made a peace with the Persians in order to be better able to pursue his design against the Vandals. Okay, wanted to go over Ptolemy of Mauritania really quick. He's noted as one of the descendants of Juba, uh, of the Numidians or Idumean? No, Idumean's wrong. The Numidians or Mauritanians. So we're going to see here, this is the Britannia about Ptolemy of Mauritania, and it says, and we're going to see the distinction between the races here, because Ptolemy of Mauritania, born 19 BC, Numidia, died 40 CE. North African client ruler for Rome, 23 to 40 CE, who assisted Roman forces in suppressing a Berber revolt in Numidia and Mauritania, but was assassinated in 40 CE after arousing the jealousy of the Roman Emperor Caligula. He was last known living descendant of the famous Cleopatra of Egypt and of the Ptolemaic royal family. So we see him suppressing a Berber revolt in Numidia. Would that mean that he was not a Berber himself? I don't know. But it starts to beg the question of who is what and what is who, right? That's what we want to know. So we'll continue. We'll continue. We'll continue next time with the next chapter of the history of the ancient Germans. Shalom.